Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about the Gung-Ho Alternative Journey, or Reskin Gundam collaboration, which is currently live in North America. So, due to the fact that licensing is difficult, we have a reskin version of a collaboration from Japan, and this Alternative Journey version features Gung-Ho owned art, and it takes away the Voice Awakenings and instead rolls their stats into the base card itself, so we're not missing out anything there. However, what I want to draw attention to is that we have had various collaboration reskins in the past, and historically speaking, they don't receive buffs or updates or continuation, and that is problematic because the way gacha games works is that, generally speaking, at the start or the debut of an event, they tend to be kind of at the peak of their power, so to speak, and this is normal. But then over time, it's going to obviously get worse and worse because the next new thing gets released, and that's kind of just the cyclic nature of power creep. And the issue is, once the cards kind of lose value, they lose value and they don't really regain it because, generally speaking, when there is a rerun of any kind of event, most cards receive some sort of buffs, and many times it can push those older cards back into relevancy, so then again, you are able to enjoy them at their kind of peak of their power, so to speak. So, because this is, like I said, a reskin version and they tend to not get love based on previous events, you may be spending stones here and not necessarily receiving as much value, at least down the road. But with that being said, I want to take a look at the cards that I feel are a bit more valuable in this event. Now, as a blanket statement, weapon assists tend to get power crept the slowest, followed by subs and then leaders. But with that being said, subs that bring key valuable mechanics such as a Cleric, someone who clears Bind and Awoken Bind, or deals with the absorption like damage absorption, attribute absorption, tend to have a bit longer staying power, especially if your stats are more min-max towards either supportive oriented, aka having some sort of utility or bulk or just ways to deal with other mechanics, or having lots and lots of damage output, because those are kind of the two polarizing ends we need to be in. And cards that kind of fall in the middle tend to be underwhelming. It's better to be a specialist than a generalist, and this kind of image in the middle just shows what I feel are some of the more important things to try and prioritize when team building, but it's not a definitive exhaustive list, but it's from a previous video and I can link it in the description down below if you want to take a little look-see at that. But with that being said, I want to take a look at the cards that I feel are more meaningful. So, the very first card that I want to take a look at is arguably the chase card of this event, because leaders, while they are two very strong leaders available, they will get power crept at a much faster rate compared to a high utility Cleric. So, for Kohaku, she is able to function as an absolutely spectacular Cleric, because if you take a look, I have one copy myself, so I decided to max her out so you can actually just appreciate how big her stats are. And with the plus 50% enhanced stat Super Awakening, she sits at a stupendous 17,000 plus health. Furthermore, there's 2,400 RCV, and when you have 4 enhanced Heart Orb Awakenings, that becomes a significant amount of healing. Furthermore, she has 4 L's, which means she can take the L assist recovery latent, which means she can quickly put back your weapon assist when they do get removed, which is starting to become a much more common trend. So, you have big healing potential, you have the way to put back your assists, you have immense stats like immense bulk, immense healing potential, and technically, with this Heart L matching awakening, it gives you a small amount of damage reduction, but if you have multiple cards with this specific awakening, you are going to be able to actually stack up a significant amount of damage reduction. And at this point in time, we are starting to face a situation where things are hitting us so incredibly hard over and over and over again that we need to find new and creative ways to add bulk. So team HPs tend to be one way, looping shields are another. Heart Ls may start becoming more important moving forward. And because of all these reasons, I believe that Kohaku is possibly the most valuable card in this event because she's going to be relevant for a long period of time. Leaders will come and go, but any blue or light-based team will be able to capitalize tremendously on her utility options. And if you are fortunate enough to roll multiple copies, her weapon assist is a 2 billion damage button. So for button farming, you're going to breeze through things because there's no animation. And sure, it only hits a single enemy, but you know what? That single enemy is probably going to be defeated. And with no extra animation, things just go faster. So as a whole, amazing card all around. Now, let's take a look at the leaders, and unfortunately for myself, I don't actually own these cards, so we're going to take a look at them through the Monster Exchange system here. So, Excaliber is the first great leader of this event, and after you have 36 turns to transform, you become spectacularly strong because she has that L shield like I mentioned beforehand, but she's got 2 L's, she's got 2 10 combos, she's got the super levitation awakening, so you ignore super gravity problems, and she does have 2 VDP or 3x3 box awakening. So she has ways to deal wonderful amounts of damage. Her active skill is only a 2-turn cooldown, which gives her 2 times personal damage and damage cap increase, along with creating exactly 5 fire, light, and heart orbs. So you're able to match those L's. You are able to match the L's of all 3 of those elements to trigger damage and to trigger extra bulk. And then her leader skill is spectacularly strong as well. You have 50 times attack multiplier. You have immense stats for machine type cards, 50% damage reduction and 2.5 times stats flat. So RCV is boosted, health is boosted, attack is boosted as well. And you have +4 combos and auto follow-up attack. So pairing with a friend, you have a spectacularly strong leader that solves your orb generation needs. It has +8 combos. It has 10 million auto follow-up attack damage, extra bulk speed, heart L's, large damage from the leaders, and team building is quite flexible beyond the machine typing. But luckily, this event here has lots of machine type cards. In fact, you can populate it with Kohaku as a cleric. You can use the 2 other subs that I'll talk about later on as the other cards on your team, and you probably can go smash the large majority of dungeons with it. So it's pretty cool that you can roll basically an entire team. But remember, you just need to bring a cleric, something to deal with absorption, and then after those 2 kind of hard requirements, damage reduction through looping shields could be good, maybe universal buffers. It just depends on the dungeon what you need, but I feel as a whole, spectacularly wonderful team building. And then if you are fortunate enough to roll multiple copies, it is a 10 combo weapon assist with a team HP and 2 skill boosts, along with 2 turns of haste, so it's never going to be a bad weapon assist moving forward when she does get power crept as a leader. And then conversely, the other weapon assist does 2 billion damage as a button while also ignoring damage void shield. So you penetrate through those and then you can deal this 2 billion button. Life becomes easier if you're fortunate enough to roll her or you have like the 40 plus Canadian to purchase her. It may be something that helps you advance in the game overall. For Pastel, she is the other strong leader in this event. Similar problem with the massive 36 turn to transform, but amusingly enough, she is a 1-turn cooldown orb generator. So in theory, with just 1 copy, you can make 6 fire orbs every single turn, and with 6-10 combo awakenings, she's going to deal spectacular amounts of damage. If it's a sun dungeon, even better. But in addition to the 6 orbs generated, she gets the damage cap increase. She gets 2 times personal damage, so she's potentially going to be hitting 15, 22.5 billion damage every turn, which is pretty outrageous when you think about it. Leader skill, you get fixed movement time, so you ignore any movement time debuffs. And then her leader skill is split into 2 red combos and a 3 red combo threshold. With 2 red combos, you trigger your 80% damage reduction, which is 5 times effective health. And then she also has 55 times attack, which is outrageously high, plus 4 combos, and then 1 follow-up damage. But when you get all your attack multiplier and your combos and auto follow-up attack when you match 3 or more fire combos. So 2 fire combos gives you bulk, 3 gives you the damage and all the other zest you need. So in theory, she's one of the few leaders who could potentially stall, because if you think about it, I'll use Aggregate as an example because many people have him. He has no hopes of stalling. In order to trigger your leader skill, you have to deal your spectacular amounts of damage. Pastel at least has the chance of doing it. Unless you Skyfall into a 3rd red combo, you're not going to actually deal damage. So that does give her a bit of an edge over other modern leaders. So again, wonderfully strong card over there. And it technically, the 6 fire orbs does not guarantee leader skill activation in terms of damage output, but you're guaranteeing you're not going to die. So that's pretty nice. You can obviously supplement with other orb changers, which you can find from this event, or maybe like looping spinners. There are just ways to do so. Just be mindful of the fact that it's only 12 seconds of movement time, so if you're going to be using a spinner, make sure it's a rapid or faster spinner, because you can't augment your movement time further to play the spinner game longer. Weapon assist wise, they're naturally strong, especially for her own type of team with the fire sub-attribute. Enhanced fire combos, which is something you're going to be doing anyways. Other weapon assist has 2-7 combos, fire sub-attribute, a bunch of damage for fire-based teams. Missing bulk, but again, if raw damage is all you truly care about, pretty great. And it's also 4 turns of haste as well, which is pretty spectacular. Obviously, the fire sub-attribute kind of limits it where it can be used, but again, spectacularly strong weapon assist for a leader as well. So when the leader becomes less relevant, swap to the weapon assist, enjoy what you can there. And now I'm going to take a look at one of the cards that I found quite exciting, of Zomer. So after 33 wonderful turns to transform, you will have 2 team HPs, you have the Heart L, but you have 4/10 combos and levitation. So they are probably going to be dealing wonderful amounts of damage output, and the double team HP with the 12,000 plus base HP, so it's going to be getting close to 14,000 with pluses, and maybe 14,000 even with the correct color weapon assist. Wonderful bulk, has extra bulk with the team HPs, does give that Heart L for added bulk, and then damage output. And then the fun doesn't stop there. The awakenings are great, the stats are great minus RCV, but the active skill itself gives you 2 times personal damage and sets the damage cap to 6 billion for this particular card. And then for 1 turn, voids damage and attribute absorption. So for your light-based teams, this is going to be one of the best solutions for absorption cancellation, assuming 1 turn is sufficient. Super Resolve spawns will be problematic, but if you know for certain it's only 1 turn is necessary, this may be one of the best subs for those mono light teams, because big damage, big bulk, extra layers of damage reduction. Not too many things are necessarily going to be bad for this card. And then on the other hand, if you get multiple copies, the weapon assist does give double team HP and super blind resist. There are a few weapon assists that do bring that specific set of awakenings, but I don't think any of them bring cloud and the movement time on top of it. It's just nice having options. And for myself, I'm going to be most likely trading for all the cards I can trade for after I receive all of my login stamp rolls. So because I don't have a single copy of this guy here, I'm going to trade for at least 1 copy for sure, because I have lots of trade fodder that I should definitely utilize. The next card I want to draw attention to is Fadra. They are exchangeable for 10 collaboration cards. So if you roll enough times, you can technically trade for him. But why would you want to trade for this guy? Well, in their reincarnated evolution, look at those stats. 20,000 plus HP, 23,000 plus attack. Truly outrageous stats. So even though they only have 3/10 combos, I guess they could get a 4th if you really tried, or levitation, they're going to be dealing spectacular amounts of damage. And you change that sub attribute to a red, and then on your Pastel teams, he could be a wonderful solution to add on if you need someone with just tons and tons of bulk, because they don't transform. They have a 2-turn cooldown, which means you can inherit something easily over top of it and get big value to start. And then the active skills and RCV buff, damage cap increase for themselves, and then they actually create 4 fire and 4 hard orbs. This is a 2-turn cooldown, so with Pastel plus Fadra, you are able to at least make 10 fire orbs from these 2 active skills. You do have big damage cap increasing on their respective cards. You do have some extra hard orbs to play around with. It is definitely going to be a strong potential for your mono fire teams with this Heart L. And then for their weapon assist, they have a strong weapon assist. Later I can do that. They have levitation, which is one of the few weapon assists that have levitation. There's very few that actually do have levitation, but it does come with team HP and team RCV. So I give this levitation weapon a bit of an edge over the other ones, simply because it brings bulk and healing potential. Now, how often are we going to need this levitation weapon? It's going to depend on the type of dungeons you are trying to play through and the types of subs you bring, but you are able to seamlessly integrate this onto a card who doesn't have levitation. And then the machine typing is relevant for some of the leaders here who actually want to have machine type cards. So overall, if you can trade for them, I would definitely recommend you do so. I'm going to be trading for him after the login stamp rolls. I did a bunch of rolling, and then I will only do my trades after I get all my login stamps. The next card I want to draw attention to is Itoli, I believe. Not sure how to say it, but they have many different forms, so there's multiple different uses you can get for them. In theory, they could be an orb generator with 6 light and 6 hard orbs made, which is never going to be a bad thing. I should really look at it from this window here because I can see their stats at level 120. So not as comically high as other cards, but still pretty high overall. So she could be a damage option. She could be a modest damage option or an orb generator, but her other forms tend to be quite powerful. Her first of all form has strong stats minus recovery, can have double 10 combo with levitation, so it's a reasonable amount of damage output, but on a 3-turn cooldown, you get damage penetration, which is obviously wonderful. And then from battle 6 and onward, which is most dungeons nowadays, you get 1 turn of absorption cancellation. So Zombradier and this individual here can definitely be utilized on the same monolite team. And it will technically across 2 active Solve, Super Resolve spawns that have multiple turns of absorption. So it could be an option there. But you may also want to utilize her reincarnated form. And this form is the form with the large stats. Look at that HP stat. So big, great attack stat, and also a pretty spectacular RCV stat. Same Heart L to add extra bulk, can get a levitation, so triple 10 combo with levitation with 21,500 attack stat. It's going to deal spectacular amounts of damage. And then the active skill gives you a movement time buff and an RCV buff, along with raising their damage cap and a 7x6 board, and also a nice orb generator. So depending on the type of monolite team you're playing, this active skill could be quite valuable because universal buffers are starting to become more relevant. Usually you can make some arguments that you can puzzle your way through like bad movement time debuffs, and assuming it's not too long of a time of RCV debuffing, you possibly can heal through it, but it's nice having solutions for it. And then the board shrinking that does occur nowadays can be counteracted with her, which makes your life easier for the most part. So general statement or summary is big damage stick, big health stick, useful active skill. Once you cover the more pressing things like absorption and clericing needs, those tend to be a bit more important priority-wise, but if you can squeeze her in, you definitely can. And remember, for your Excaliber teams, the light leader for this event, you don't need 3 copies to create a system. You only need 2, so you have a bit more room to squeeze in extra cards. And then the last card I want to draw attention to is Moari. They have a unique active skill. I think it's interesting. Like, it's a 7-turn cooldown with 5 turns of shields and a spinner for 5 turns and 1 turn of haste. Nothing does this specific set of active skill effects, but it cannot be looped on itself. So unless you have haste from other people, you can't actually cycle this shield and this spinner. So it's not truly reliable, which is obviously unfortunate. Their other forms, not as excited for this one. Their reincarnated evolution does do damage absorption and damage penetration and big board changing. So in those instances where you don't need to have attribute absorption, this could be potentially alright. I feel like it's more so for their weapon assist. It's another one that has levitation, but it's levitation with tape, and I do like tape resist because if you are playing teams with spinners and the tape goes on your spinner, that's kind of awkward because you can't interact with it. Again, the value of levitation awakenings through weapon assists are probably quite high now simply because we don't have many other options. And this would be like the cheapest one to trade for if you need to have a levitation awakening, so it's worth mentioning that. So like I said, I'm going to be trading for all these top rarity cards that I can after I get all my login stamp rolls. And then the last card I want to draw attention to is a purely tradable card. It only needs 5 black event medals, and I did trade for it because I think it's a strong card. And I think I actually just leveled it up because, you know, let's see the stats. So for a farmable card, because it's truly farmable, because it's tradable, it's a Cleric on a 5-turn cooldown, which is the baseline we want to have. It does bring 2 team HPs. It has 2 L's, it has 2 crosses, it has enhanced hard orb awakenings. Obviously not as great as Kohaku, but it's hard to kind of compete against it. But for a farmable, I highly recommend you actually trade for this warship here, because with the extra 2 skill boosts or the extra enhanced heart orb awakenings, they can be a wonderfully strong solution for monolite teams if you don't have the more premier options. But I still trade it for it because it's good to have as many different options as you possibly can. Now, with that being said, let me know what you lovely ladies and gentlemen think about this alternative journey event in the comment section down below. Do you feel like there are some cards that I may have passed over that you think have a bit more value? I'm not trying to say that there are other cards I did mention have no value. I just feel like these are the cards that got me personally a bit more excited, and I would like to actually acquire them. But with that being said, hopefully all you lovely ladies and gentlemen have a truly fantastic day. I wish best of your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.